Can you buy a property and rent it out on Airbnb in Newport Beach, Corona del Mar, or Newport Coast? In this video, we're gonna do a deep dive to answer that directly, because the answer is yes and also no. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Newport Beach administers all short-term rentals for Newport Beach, Corona del Mar, and Newport Coast, as they are one jurisdiction. For all three, it's one city and one program. You must have a short-term lodging permit and your HOA must approve it. Which means to rent your house out for less than 30 days, like on Airbnb or VRBO, the city requires a short-term lodging permit and also a business license. There is a hard cap on permits. There's only 1,550 permits for all three cities, which is all one area. And yes, once that cap was reached, and yes, it is already reached, there's no more. But what does that mean for you? Well, if a property already has a short-term rental permit, you can operate an Airbnb there. For instance, there are properties in Corona del Mar and Newport Beach that have Airbnb licenses and they operate legally. However, there's also a waiting list, and it's a long waiting list. Which means if you buy a property that does not already have a short-term rental permit, you cannot operate an Airbnb out of that residence. And even though the wait list exists, there's no guarantee that you'll get on it. And the only way you could essentially get on it is if there's an active home that has a short-term residential or rental permit, and they decide to cancel it or not renew it or sell that property. Usually if they sell that property, they're going to sell to an investor, and even if someone buys that property, they're going to want to keep that permit. So that wait list is not a guarantee, and it's not going to be anytime soon. So don't get your hopes up. It's better to buy a property that already has one and then rent it out from there. But you could bet that you're going to be paying a premium, as there's properties that I actually, for a quick story, there's a home in Corona del Mar that I rented it out for $9,500 a month, and the owners got tired of doing short-term rentals like Airbnb, but they were getting $15,000 a month for that same property. So you can imagine if someone owns a property and has a permit and they're cash flowing it, especially during summertime, it's going to be difficult. But I guess there's always hope. But the one thing to know is just because you buy a property with that permit, there's still paperwork that needs to be done to properly transfer that permit over. So you want to make sure that you talk to your real estate agent and make sure that you have the proper due diligence and disclosures and everything in order, so that way if you're buying a property with the intent of doing short-term rentals, that you could actually legally operate it, so that way you don't buy a property with the permits and then things are done incorrectly and come to find out you can't operate it anymore. That would be horrible news and a situation you do not want to be in. The other key thing is zones matter, and where the permits are already granted, the zoning allows for it, but there's certain zones that do not allow it. The other thing is CC&Rs and HOA laws absolutely exist. So as I mentioned, there's no more permits getting granted, so not really a concern, but there's certain areas that even when that wait list was open or when the application process was open to be able to do it in the first place, you weren't allowed to just because your HOA said no. There's also certain taxes that are in place with short-term rentals. There's also business licensing that is in need, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you definitely want to make sure that you check with an attorney, a tax advisor, as I cannot give legal or tax advice when it comes to operating a short-term vacation business here in Orange County. I'm just here to break down that, yes, you can have Airbnbs, but at the same time, there's only 1,550 permits that were granted, and they're all given out. And there's a wait list, but that's difficult to do so. And if you buy a home with it, you're paying a premium, and you want to make sure you do the proper due diligence and paperwork to make sure that transfer comes right over so you can operate a short-term rental business as it was before. If you're wondering who I am, my name is Jarrett Richards. I am an agent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, California Properties. I've done a bunch of leases, especially high-end luxury leases, but I've also sold $14.5 million in just under 3 years. If you're looking to buy, sell, or lease luxury, give me a call at 949-405-4455. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I put out videos like this. I also do city tours, and whenever I have a home that I'm able to tour myself, I put that on YouTube. I'm on Instagram and everything else. So make sure you connect with me, and if you need any help whatsoever, don't hesitate to reach out, shoot me a text message, or give me a phone call.